Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, there lived a sly and clever fox. He had a shiny red coat, bushy tail, and twinkling eyes that always seemed to be up to something. The fox loved exploring every corner of the forest, looking for tasty treats and exciting adventures. One hot summer afternoon, the fox was wandering through the forest. The sun was high in the sky, and its golden rays made the air feel warm and sticky. His paws felt dusty from the dry ground, and he could feel his throat getting thirstier with every step.
Oh, I wish I could find something juicy to eat,
he muttered, licking his dry lips. As he walked, the fox spotted a grapevine hanging from the branches of a tall tree. The vine was bursting with plump purple grapes that sparkled like tiny jewels in the sunlight. The sight of the grapes made his mouth water, and his tummy growled louder than ever.
Ah, just what I needed,
the fox exclaimed.
Those grapes will be perfect to quench my thirst and fill my belly. Yum, yum.
His eyes gleamed with excitement as he imagined their sweet, juicy taste. The fox got ready to grab the grapes, but there was one problem. The grapes were hanging very, very high, far out of his reach. He tilted his head back and squinted at them, wondering how he could possibly get to them. The fox wasn't worried, though. He was sure he could get them because, after all, he was a clever fox.
I've never let a little challenge stop me before,
he thought confidently. The fox crouched down low to the ground, wiggling his body like a spring. His muscles tightened as he prepared to launch himself into the air with all his strength. Then, with a mighty leap, he jumped toward the grapes. He stretched out his paws as far as he could, hoping to grab even a single grape. But whoosh, he missed them by a long shot. The grapes were much higher than he had thought, almost teasing him as they swayed gently in the breeze. The fox landed on the ground with a little thud. He frowned and scratched his head.
Humph, I wasn't ready that time. I'll jump higher,
he said confidently, trying to boost his own courage. Then he muttered to himself,
Those grapes don't stand a chance against me.
This time, the fox backed up a few steps to get a running start. His tail wagged slightly as he psyched himself up for an even bigger jump. He sprinted toward the tree as fast as his legs could carry him and leaped into the air. But no matter how high he jumped, the grapes were still out of reach. He stretched his neck and paws as far as he could, but it wasn't enough. The fox landed back on the ground, panting and tired.
All right, grapes. You're playing hard to get?
He said, glaring up at them.
But I'm not giving up yet. You'll be mine soon.
For his last attempt, the fox decided to try something different. He spotted a big rock nearby and thought,
If I climb onto the rock, I'll be closer to the grapes.
The rock was rough and uneven, but the fox was determined. He climbed up, balancing carefully on the rock. The surface was a little wobbly, but he steadied himself with his tail. Once he was steady, he stretched his legs, got ready, and jumped as high as he could. But once again, the grapes were just too high. The poor fox tumbled to the ground with a loud plop. The fox sighed deeply, staring up at the grapes one last time.
Maybe you're just magic grapes that no one can reach,
he muttered, shaking his head. Then, trying to sound brave, he said,
Well, I wouldn't want our grapes anyway.
The fox lay there for a moment, staring at the grapes. He was tired, frustrated, and hungry. And he didn't feel as clever as he usually did. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't reach them. Finally, the fox stood up, brushed himself off, and sniffed.
Who needs those silly grapes anyway?
He said loudly, pretending he didn't care. His voice sounded a little shaky, as if he was trying to convince himself.
They're probably sour and not even tasty,
the fox added. He turned his back on the grapes and trotted off into the forest, trying to look proud. The forest was quiet now, except for the faint rustling of leaves above. Deep down, he felt a little sad and disappointed. But he decided to hide his feelings and keep walking, hoping to find something else to eat. Below are the moral and learnings of the fox and the grapes. It's easy to despise what you cannot have. When the fox couldn't reach the grapes, he convinced himself that they weren't worth having. This teaches us to be honest with ourselves about our feelings and not let frustration cloud our judgment. Accepting failure is part of growth. Instead of making excuses like the fox did, we should learn to accept when something doesn't work out. This helps us grow stronger and more resilient for future challenges. Plan wisely before acting. The fox tried to jump impulsively without first figuring out the best way to reach the grapes. This reminds us that thoughtful planning can save energy and increase the chances of success. Focus on what's achievable. The fox wasted time chasing something out of his reach. This encourages us to set realistic goals and focus on things we can accomplish, which leads to a sense of fulfillment. And now we've reached the end of this story, my friends. Remember, not everything we want is as sweet as it seems. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time for another story.